The founder of Sunburst, Norm Paulson, learned to meditate from Paramahansa Yogananda. And then some years later, as Norm taught meditation to others, the group sought an approach to life that would help them share this peace, this inspiration that they found while meditating, but they wanted to be able to share it while pursuing all the activities of daily life. So they were inspired to seek the 12 heavenly virtues and the 8 paths of truth. And each month now, we consider the unique qualities of each virtue. So we now consider the virtue of charity, true charity. And Yogananda suggests that we, and I'll quote now, desire salvation so that you may give it to everyone else. Desire to drink God's nectar of bliss so that you may share it with all. That is true charity. So it appears that true charity involves more than the mere action of giving, whether it's giving of our time, our money, or our goods. True charity is not just an action, it's a quality to develop, a virtue to seek. In the Hindu scriptures of the Bhagavad Gita, at chapter 16, verse 1, Krishna tells Arjuna that charity is among the transcendental qualities. Another way of describing the virtues. And that practicing charity leads to selflessness. The concept of charity in the West comes from the ancient Greek word agape, which is translated as love. Love in the highest form, which is charity, selfless giving. Seeking insights on developing charity as a virtue, I was reminded of a story by Hans Christian Andersen, which was published in 1845. The story is a reminder, perhaps a bittersweet reminder, of the value of compassion and charity to all. And the events take place on New Year's Eve, and here we are at the very beginning of our new year. Most terribly cold it was. It snowed and was nearly quite dark. It was evening, the last evening of the year. In this cold and darkness, there went along the street a poor little girl, bareheaded with naked feet. When she left home, she had slippers on, but what good was that? They were very large, which her mother had worn, so large that when she ran across the street to avoid the racing carriages, the slippers came off. One was nowhere to be found, and the other was grabbed by a little boy who ran off with it. So the little maiden walked on with her tiny naked feet that were quite red and blue from the cold. She carried a quantity of matches in an old apron, and she held a bundle of them in her hand. Nobody had bought anything from her the entire day. No one had given her a single penny. She crept along, trembling with cold and hunger, a very picture of sorrow, The flakes of snow covered her long, fair hair, which fell in beautiful curls around her neck. From all the windows, the candles were gleaming, and it smelt so deliciously of roast goose, for you know it was New Year's Eve, of which she thought. In a corner formed by two houses, she seated herself down and cowered together. Her little feet she'd drawn close up to her, but she grew colder and colder. She couldn't go home because she had sold no matches, and she feared that her father would beat her. Anyway, it was cold at home, and the wind rushed through the cracks in the roof, patched with straw and rags. Her little hands were almost numbed with cold. Oh, a match might afford her a world of comfort if she only dared take out a one and strike it. And she did just that. How it blazed, how it burnt. It was a warm, bright flame. And she held her hands over it. It was a wonderful light. It seemed really to the little maiden as though she were sitting before a large iron stove with burnished brass feet and a brass ornament on top. The fire burned with such a blessed influence. It warmed so delightfully. The little girl had already stretched out her feet to warm them too, but the small flame went out. The stove vanished, and she had only the remains of the burnt-out match in her hand. She rubbed another against the wall. It burned brightly, and where the light fell on the wall, there the wall became transparent, like a veil, so she could see into the room. And on the table was spread a snow-white tablecloth. Upon it was a splendid porcelain service, and the roast goose was steaming famously with its stuffing of apple and dried plums. Then the match went out, and nothing but the thick, cold, damp wall was left behind. She lit another match, and now there she was sitting under the most magnificent Christmas tree. It was still larger and more decorated than the one she had seen through the glass door of the rich merchant's house. Thousands of lights were burning on the green branches, and gaily colored pictures such as she'd seen in the shop windows looked down upon her. The little maiden stretched out her hands towards them, and the match went out. The lights of the Christmas tree, though, seemed to rise higher and higher, and she saw them now as stars in heaven. One fell down and formed a long trail of fire. The little girl remembered her old grandmother, the only person who had loved her, who was now no more. Grandmother had told her that when a star falls, a soul ascends to heaven. She drew another match against the wall. It was again light, and in the luster there stood her old grandmother, so bright and radiant, so mild, in which such an expression of love. "Grandmother," cried the little one, "oh, take me with you. You go away when the match burns out. You vanish like the warm stove, like the delicious roast goose and the magnificent Christmas tree." So she rubbed the whole bundle of matches quickly against the wall, for she wanted to be quite sure of keeping her grandmother near. And the matches gave such a brilliant light, it was brighter than at noonday. Never formerly had the grandmother been so beautiful and so tall. She took the little maiden on her arm, and both flew in brightness and in joy, so high, so very high. And then above was neither cold, nor hunger, nor anxiety. They were with God. But in the corner, At the cold hour of dawn sat the poor girl with rosy cheeks and with a smiling mouth, leaning against the wall. Now she was forever still. She wanted to warm herself, people said, but no one had the slightest suspicion of what beautiful things she had seen. No one even dreamed of the splendor in which, with her grandmother, she had entered on the joys of a new year. A simple act of charity may have saved the little matchstick girl, who, despite her circumstances, was not bitter or resentful, and who found such amazing hope in each burning match. And we are painfully reminded of the importance of compassion for all. So, what does the development of charity as a virtue look like? My grandfather, on my father's side, was born in 1890. His name was Curtis. He loved the ocean, and he went off to serve in the army in World War I in Europe. He drove an ambulance truck back and forth from the front lines to the hospitals and then back again for more wounded. When he came home, he married my grandmother Gladys, and together they started a successful business. But he brought 2 books with him when he went to war in Europe. One was a small, pocket-sized version of the New Testament of the Bible, and the other was a short book written by Henry Drummond titled The Greatest Thing in the World. And both of those books have come into my care, and the Drummond book has become a true friend. And in that book, Drummond examined very carefully chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians in the New Testament. And those verses are known to many of us because they are such an amazingly beautiful description of love, often quoted during wedding ceremonies. In an old translation of the New Testament, in the King James Version, the references of love are references to charity. Remembering our understanding of charity comes from that Greek word agape, which is translated as love in its highest form. So I'm going to read those verses as they were with the translation of love as charity, as we seek to understand how we might pursue this virtue. Though I speak with the tongues of men and angels and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith that I could move mountains, if I have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, if I have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Charity suffers long and is kind. Charity does not envy. Charity does not vaunt itself, and it is not puffed up. Charity does not behave itself in an unseemly way. It seeks not her own. Charity is not easily provoked. It thinks no evil. It rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Charity bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Charity does not fail. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Where there are tongues, they shall cease. Where there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know even also I am known. And now abides faith, hope, and charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. When Drummond analyzed those verses, he used the translation of charity as love. And they are so interchangeable because they come from agape, this idea of an unconditional love. Drummond explained that in those verses, in these few words, we have what one might call the spectrum of love, the analysis of love. Will you observe what its elements are? Will you notice that they have common names, that they are virtues which we hear about every day, that they are things which can be practiced by every person in every place in life, and how by a multitude of small things and ordinary virtues, the supreme thing, the summum bonum, love, is made up. So the spectrum of love, which is the heart of charity, has 9 ingredients: patience, kindness, generosity, humility, courtesy, unselfishness, good temper, guilelessness, and sincerity. To prepare for our quiet time of meditation, I wanted to share an introduction to meditation, if you will, on love that Yogananda provided in his book, The Second Coming of Christ. Love as the heart of charity. Charity as love in action. So first, Yogananda quoted from the book of John, and these are words of Jesus. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue in my love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy may be full. Yogananda suggests this for us. Try to imagine the love spoken of by Jesus in these verses. Close your eyes. Put your attention on the heart. And feel the greatest love that you have ever felt for another person. Let that love saturate every cell of your body. Now expand the feeling of love like an encircling sphere, embracing your family, friends, all your loved ones. Feel your love ever increasing. Include in that sphere all the people in your city, then all of your country. Now everything in the world is bathed in that love. The whole earth, the solar system, the far-flung galaxies and island universes. Everything is floating in this vast sphere of love. Feel, meditate on, merge yourself in that love which permeates and upholds the infinitudes of manifestation, a demonstrable presence of God's heartbeat of bliss, setting the pace of cosmic harmony and unity, and known to the devotee as the all-in-all fulfillment. each one of us has been blessed with the love of Divine Spirit. And being filled with that love, charity comes and taps us on the shoulder, reminding us that we must now share that love with all. Norm wrote beautifully about charity in his book, Sacred Science. He said, "True charity is the willingness to lay down your own life forces to serve Spirit, to give of yourself and your time in service to others without conditions attached. Love, true love, is charity flowing forth from the beloved I am that I am, passing through your body and into other souls and the creation around you. Yes, God is charity, always giving and only asking that we love God in return. Charity is the creative cause and concern for all that lives, the heart of all creatures, the mother of all species. Charity is the act of sharing and knowing that all is one with your own, the nurturing nature of Divine Spirit." Norm also left us with a beautiful prayer that we may express this charity. O divine giver of life, may I become a true recipient of your cosmic healing forces, and then may I join you in helping others wherever I can. May I always remain true and transfixed upon your light and presence within me. You are the essence of my being, my own pure self within. I acknowledge that I must receive you before I can truly give. Take me within, O Christ, and embrace me. Yes, then will I surely be able to follow you and realize how blessed it is to give rather than to receive.
Of love and light, I am that